All right, let's just start with a sound. You know this beat,
Oh, yeah.
like that. Kendrick, Future, Metro Boomin. I mean, it kicked off the biggest rap beef of the decade.
Without a doubt, everyone was talking about Kendrick versus Drake.
Everyone. But while the whole world was watching the Titans trade insults in the main event, something much darker was going on backstage.
That's usually how it goes. The show is out front to keep you looking one way, but the real moves, the money moves that actually change things, they're happening in the dark, buried in paperwork.
And today, we're going backstage. We're not
Yeah.
talking Drake. We're not talking Kendrick. We're talking about a legacy hip-hop artist, Rodney O, a huge copyright lawsuit, and a cast of characters that honestly feels like it's out of a movie.
It does. You've got the crazy manager, the bulldog lawyer, the YouTube commentator, and of course the big empire Sony Music.
Sounds like a whole drama.
It is. But our mission today is to look at the paperwork. Specifically, one invoice and one email chain that completely flips the script on who you think the hero is and who the villain is.
Okay, so set the stage for us. Because if I go on YouTube right now and search this case, the story seems pretty locked in. What's the narrative the internet is telling everyone?
You're going to find a very loud, very clear consensus, and that narrative is that Rodney O, a West Coast hip-hop legend, is basically being held hostage by his manager, a woman named Necole Key.
Necole Key, so she's the bad guy in this version.
Oh, 100%. The story is that she's just destroying his career with, frivolous lawsuits, that she's meddling, and thank God this high-powered lawyer, Kenneth Froenlich, has swooped in to save the day.
A classic damsel in distress story. Only the damsel is a rap pioneer and the dragon is his own manager.
Exactly. But the sources we have, the emails, the transcripts, the financial records, they suggest that maybe the dragon was the only one trying to save the castle, and the knight in shining armor, well, he might be getting paid by the enemy.
That is a big claim. So let's unpack this. We have to start with the public perception, right? With the culture commentary.
Yes.
We looked at transcripts from a really popular YouTube channel, ABSAFCKNLUTEly.
Right. And she's a major voice. She frames herself as a protector of the culture, someone who looks out for legacy artists so they don't get exploited.
And she has just zeroed in on Necole Key. I mean, I was reading these transcripts,
Yeah.
and the language it's something else. She calls her a biscuit head.
Biscuit head, unhinged, and my personal favorite, a vexatious litigant powered by ChatGPT.
Okay, hold on. Vexatious litigant. That sounds made up, but it's a real legal term, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's serious. It means you're someone who files lawsuits just to harass the other side, not to actually get justice.
Yeah.
You're abusing the system.
And the commentator is selling this narrative hard. She's reading from these legal filings where Rodney O's new lawyer is accusing Key of fraud, of forging documents. And she's laughing about it. She's like, I told y'all, she's a fraud.
And she frames the lawyer, Froenlich, as the adult in the room.
The savior.
The savior narrative, exactly. The idea is that Rodney O was lost with this amateur manager, and now the professional bulldog is here to clean up her mess.
And to be fair, if you just hear the headlines, she's sending process servers to lawyers' homes, forging letters, it does sound unhinged.
On the surface, absolutely. It looks totally erratic. But in a deep dive like this, you have to ask the next question, which is why? Is she acting crazy because she's incompetent? Or is she acting crazy because she's desperate and no one will listen to her?
And that's the pivot, because we have something the YouTube commentator either missed or just didn't have. We have the emails.
The email from September 29th, this is the turning point. At this moment, Necole Key is still trying to advise on the case, and she sends a very, very specific instruction to the bulldog lawyer. She tells him to file a motion to dismiss under Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 19.
Okay, Rule 19. Break that down for those of us who aren't lawyers. What is that?
So think of it this way. A lawsuit is kind of like a dinner party where you're trying to solve some big argument.
Okay, I'm with you.
Rule 19 is basically the rule that says, hey, wait a minute, we can't actually settle this thing because a really important person isn't even at the table.
The empty chair defense.
Precisely, the empty chair. Key looked at the lawsuit and realized they had sued Rodney, but they hadn't sued Warner Music.
And Warner's relevant because they control a huge piece of the rights.
A huge piece. So her argument was simple. Judge, you can't rule on this fairly without Warner in the room. And since the plaintiffs didn't include them, you have to throw the whole case out.
It's a technicality, but it's a powerful one. It's an escape hatch. She's literally handing him a key to let Rodney walk.
It was a sophisticated legal move. This wasn't ChatGPT nonsense. It was a viable strategy to get a dismissal. Rodney goes home, lawsuit over for him.
So if you're the bulldog lawyer paid to defend Rodney and someone hands you a get-out-of-jail-free card, you take it. You file the motion.
You would think so, but he didn't.
What did he do?
He got angry. We have the reply. He tells her, essentially, to stop being a lawyer. He says she's muddying the waters. He just flat out refuses to use the argument.
That makes no sense. Why reject a winning strategy? Is it just ego? He doesn't want advice from a manager.
That's the easy explanation, right? The drama narrative. Big lawyer doesn't like being told what to do. But lawyers love to win. They usually don't care where the idea comes from, as long as it works. Unless
winning for your client means losing for someone else.
someone more important.
And this is where we need to follow the money. Because lawyers aren't free. Who is paying for all this?
And this is the smoking gun. We have the invoice. It covers the period from October 7th to November 5th, right after that big email fight. The total is just over $55,000.
55 grand.
And at the bottom, the Bill to field, it doesn't say Rodney O.
It says Sony Music Publishing.
Sony Music Publishing. $55,391.60.
Okay, devil's advocate for a second. Is that weird? Doesn't the label often pay for the artist's legal defense?
Indemnification, right?
It's very common. The label indemnifies the artist. They say, don't worry, we got this. But here's the catch. When the label pays the lawyer, who's the lawyer really working for, ethically, it's the artist, but in reality, it's the person signing the check.
So how does that connect back to Rule 19? Why would Sony care?
Think about the ecosystem. Sony and Warner are giants. They're competitors, but they're also peers. They have, like, an unwritten rule. You don't drag each other into messy, expensive lawsuits if you can help it.
Because if you drag Warner in, Warner has to open their books, start discovery.
Exactly. It costs millions. It sets a bad precedent. If Sony lets their lawyer drag Warner in, then next week Warner might drag Sony into something else. It's mutually assured destruction.
So Necole Key's strategy was save Rodney, screw the industry politics. But Sony's strategy was protect the ecosystem even if Rodney has to stay in the lawsuit. Bingo. Her strategy was great for Rodney O. It was terrible for Sony. It would cause a huge corporate headache.
So the lawyer, knowing who pays his bills, kills the strategy. He tells her to be quiet.
And when she won't be quiet because she's trying to protect her client, he turns the cannons on her.
Let's go back to that invoice, that $55,000. Where did it go? Was it spent fighting the Barry White Trust?
That's the most tragic part. We analyzed the line items. Of that 55 grand by our calculation, about 37,000 of it, nearly 70%, was spent not on the lawsuit, but on drafting complaints, motions, and letters to remove and silence Necole Key.
Wait, hold on. Sony paid $37,000 in 1 month just to get this woman out of the picture.
That's what the invoice shows. They spent corporate money to file motions, to intervene, to draft letters accusing her of being a fraud, to basically strip Rodney O of his advisor.
This completely reframes what the YouTube commentator was saying. She's laughing, saying, look at these lawyers crushing this dumb woman. But it wasn't some kind of natural justice. It was a paid hit.
It was a calculated, very expensive strategy to crush dissent. And imagine how that looks from Key's perspective. You suggest a valid legal move, the lawyer yells at you, you realize he's protecting Sony, not Rodney. You try to tell the court, and the response is a $37,000 legal attack to paint you as crazy.
That explains the crazy behavior. When the commentator talks about her filing handwritten motions or things without the lawyer's permission, if you think the system is fair, that looks insane.
But if you know the system is rigged against your client, it looks like whistleblowing. It looks like desperation. If the people supposed to help you are actually working for the other side, you start breaking windows to get someone's attention.
And the YouTube commentator just sees the broken windows and says, look at this vandal, completely missing that the house is on fire.
It's a massive blind spot. She's so focused on the aesthetics of professionalism. You know, Freundlich wears a suit, files clean documents, speaks legalese. Key's emotional, maybe messy. So the assumption is the suit is right and the manager is wrong.
It's a bias toward power.
Mm-hmm.
And what's so ironic is her whole brand is protecting the culture, protecting the legacy artist.
But by cheering for Key's removal, she's actually cheering for Rodney to be left completely isolated. She's cheering for the removal of the one person who was willing to put him first, ahead of the corporate politics.
The protector became a cheerleader for the corporate takeover.
Pretty much. And, you know, we have to talk about the fraud allegations. The commentator makes a huge deal about Key supposedly forging a letter from another artist.
Right, but it seems like a tough thing to defend.
It is, and we're not a court of law, but You have to look at the context. Where did that accusation come from? It came from the lawyers being paid by Sony.
Who have a vested interest in discrediting her.
A huge one. If they can paint her as a criminal, as a vexatious litigant, then a judge stops listening to her about the Rule 19 argument or the conflict of interest. They need her to be unhinged.
So they don't just say she's wrong, they say she's a criminal.
They go nuclear. And speaking of ethics, there's a term Key used in one of her emails that's critical here. Zealous advocacy.
Zealous advocacy. Sounds like a legal term.
It's the core duty of a lawyer. You have to zealously advocate for your client's best interest, not the person paying the bill, the client.
And Key called him out on it directly. She basically wrote, "You're failing to do this for Rodney because you're protecting Sony."
Which is a nuclear accusation to make against a lawyer. And look at the timeline. It's after she sends that email that the invoice shows all the resources shifting. That's when the $37,000 spending spree to destroy her really kicks off.
It was retaliation. You pointed at her conflict, so now you have to go.
And it worked. That's the sad part. It worked. Rodney O eventually split from her. He sided with the bulldog.
The YouTuber celebrated it. She made a video. Rodney finally woke up.
But did he wake up? Or did he just give up? I mean, imagine you're Rodney O. You don't understand Rule 19. You just have this fancy lawyer telling you, your manager's crazy, stick with me, Sony is paying for it all. That feels safe.
It's the path of least resistance. Free lawyer from a big firm. Okay.
But the cost wasn't money. The cost was autonomy. Now he's in a lawsuit where the strategy is dictated by what's best for Sony.
Instead of a strategy that could have gotten the whole thing tossed out months ago.
Exactly. He traded a high-risk, high-reward strategy that put him first for a safe strategy that guarantees he stays a pawn in a bigger game.
It just really makes you rethink these culture commentary channels. In this case, the commentator became an unwitting PR machine for Sony.
It's a lesson in media literacy, right?
Ugh.
When the internet decides someone is a target for mockery, you have to pause. The commentator was so distracted by the personality drama, the biscuit head stuff, that she didn't read the invoice.
Always read the invoice.
Always. You can spin a story in a video. You can lie in a press release. You can't lie in a billable hour log. That money was spent. And it was spent silencing the one person asking the hard questions.
And what's wild is that she frames herself as anti-establishment, but when it came down to it, she sided with the suits.
Because the suits looked professional and the rebel looked messy. And that's a bias we all have to watch out for. Just because someone is shouting doesn't mean they're wrong.
So what's the big takeaway here for artists listening, or even just anyone who finds themselves in a complicated legal mess?
The takeaway is, be terrifyingly suspicious when someone else offers to pay for your lawyer.
The golden handcuffs.
It's the bodyguard paradox. If you hire a bodyguard to protect you, but your enemy pays his salary, is he really guarding you?
Or is he just a warden making sure you don't escape?
The invoice suggests he's the warden. It suggests that the moment the bodyguard realized the crazy manager had a key to the cell, he spent 37 grand of the enemy's money to take her out.
That is a chilling thought. Rodney O, a legend, trapped in a golden cage while the internet cheers for the people locking the door.
And the one person with the key is being laughed out of the building.
Well, that's a heavy note to end on, but a really important one. This was a deep dive into conflict of interest, the hidden mechanics of the music business, and why you should never, ever judge a legal battle by the YouTube comments.
Stay skeptical and look at who pays the bills.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.